Happy today. I am William Brown from IamWilliamBrown.com, a place where you can get your U cards and the books beyond the shell. I'm working hard to utilize the sponsorship of I Am William Brown to help to make this show possible. And I set my intentions for today with my U cards. My U cards, they come in three sections: that I am, you are, and the quote cards. My I am is I am worthy. So that's an interesting thing. And you are was you are full of grace. And my quote for today for this show is be you, do you, for you. And that's a quote by me. So that is so great sometimes when I get to quote myself. So it's kind of it's like sometimes in the Christian scriptures. I don't know if it's the Christian scriptures or just in the Christian church when they say sometimes you have to encourage yourself, right? So that's what I'm doing. So I'm really excited and welcome to Disconnect to Connect One Word Conversations, the conversation where we explore and unpack one word. And so I'm excited about today's show. Not just that I have, one of my friends on many levels and many connections, but the word, because the word has been coming up for me in a number of different ways, and so last week or 2 weeks ago, the word was heard, and today the word is seen, and really, I believe that's a fundamental thing for us to be seen and heard, or to feel like we're seen and heard. And so, in this time, with a lot of things going on and a lot of things that I'm up to and a lot of other people are up to, being seen is something that we're going to explore today. So, as I do, I am going to invite my friend in so we can have a conversation. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, as I do, this is the moment where I invite my guests to introduce themselves however it feels comfortable.
Thanks, William. I am Helen Moses. I am a woman who is also a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, a voice coach, a singer, a speaker, a learner,
Hmm.
and a carer. I care.
Hmm. Hmm. I get that. Wow. Welcome to the conversation.
Thanks.
Um, so, how does the word seen show up for you?
Well, I'm going to start with um, something I did on Friday, and that was get my hair cut because you can see and hear the actual color, natural color of my hair. I've been
Hmm.
coloring my hair for over a decade, maybe
Hmm.
15 years. There's early gray in my family. And as the pandemic was happening, I started to get to the point where I was ready to let my real hair be
Hmm.
seen.
Hmm.
Um, I have loved the color, but I've been wondering in the last few years when's going to be the right time to let my natural hair be seen.
Hmm.
I decided that with this pandemic, I couldn't get to see my hairstylist. I couldn't, I didn't want to color it myself over the counter, and it was growing pretty fast. And I thought, there's never, ever, ever, ever going to be a better time for me to show up and let my natural hair be seen.
Hmm.
It turns out that there's still just a few. a little bit more of the color in there. So I'm in kind of this transition stage.
Right.
My hairstylist says it'll probably take about 2 more haircuts and then it'll all be out. But it feels so good to let
Right.
it be seen. I feel like I'm revealing me, a part of me
Wow.
that's been hidden.
Wow. Now, I mean, there's lessons and there's all kind of things within that, and I totally get that. There's a number of, I guess, revealings, right?
Mm-hmm.
The awareness of ourselves
Yeah.
causes us to be okay with being seen, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of do that. I mean, it's and for you, it's taken I guess the start of a pandemic or the idea of a pandemic to really embrace who you are on some level, or
Yeah.
and to see yourself not just as you are, but it feels like, I don't know if you can probably speak to this, as who you see yourself to be,
Yeah.
the authentic voice, or or something, and
Yes.
all of that embodies that. So yeah, I get that. Thank you for sharing that. I was,
You're welcome.
we're Facebook friends, so I'm one of those people that I like surprises, but I don't like surprises because I go into this, I don't want to say this doomsday type of thinking. So it's like if we're ever scheduled to meet, or something, and you're like 5 minutes late, I will think the worst, right? I will think, something horrible happened, or
Yeah.
or something of that, and instead of just saying, okay, this is going to happen. And so when you were saying, all right, there's something that I'm gonna do that I'm ready for, I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? So it was just like, so I was like excited, but like fearful of this, and so I was so glad, for me, it was like, oh, okay, I'm so glad. I was like, okay, it's the hair.
Someone
So it
wrote
was
they
just
thought,
it.
someone said they thought it was going to be a tattoo.
Oh boy.
I just
Yeah,
wrote, you never
it's
know. You never
right.
know. I'll just leave it at that.
It's amazing, the stories that we create for for ourselves and others, right?
Yeah.
To kind of
Yeah.
get us through.
Yeah.
So and I think for me, the reason why, how seeing shows up for me, and the reason why sometimes it's like, I guess, a love hate relationship,
Mm.
is that feeling that I have to demand to be seen, or I have to be, I have to, and maybe it's the performer side of me, because I was an actor. I was a
Yeah.
theater major and on stage, and so the performance of being noticed and being seen, there is sometimes that I want to be seen without the show, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, am I doing something to be seen, or I'm just allowing myself to be seen?
Yeah. There's definitely kind of a continuum there. Um, I think I also have a performance background in singing and theater, and it's um, it's been that those skills have allowed me to hide. And
Absolutely, I get it.
and in Toastmasters, when I was first in there, I felt like I had to speak perfectly. I was in Toastmasters to learn how to speak perfectly because I was scared to be seen as imperfect.
Right, got it.
And I spent a lot of time polishing my speeches. And they were nearly perfect. They really were. Um, no, just like I said, right then, I had no filler words, zero.
Right.
I used the most appropriate inflection. I used gestures that actually meant something. I thought about the space that I had to use and I walked around and used it. And I made great eye contact and I changed my volume and enunciated and I projected my voice and I put on a show.
Hmm.
It wasn't until shortly before I left Toastmasters. I left for a number of reasons, and I write about it in my upcoming book. So I'll leave people in
Well,
suspense about that. That's coming
congratulations
out in
on that.
September. But as I was leaving, I recognized that trying to be seen as perfect was absolutely counterproductive.
Hmm.
And in fact, it was hurting my business because
Hmm.
I worked so hard at being perfect. For example, in giving my elevator pitch,
Hmm.
because I thought that if I didn't give the perfect elevator pitch, well, who would want to hire me? If I couldn't give a
Right.
perfect pitch, who would want to do that? Well, I
Right.
started to understand is that when I became more vulnerable and used a few filler words and sometimes didn't have the best eye contact and sometimes rambled just a little bit,
Right. Right.
that people actually felt like they could see themselves in me more. And it
Right.
was that was a turning point for me when I was willing to be seen as fallible
Right.
instead of perfect. Then
Right.
I was able to be seen more by people who needed my services. And that's the point at which my business began to finally grow.
Wow. No, I totally get it. I label myself recovering perfectionist, but every once in a while, I guess I fall off the wagon or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's just one of those things that I'm, my conversation within my business is, to be yourself, right, and live your life, right. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm doing. So anytime that one of my many labels starts speaking for me, or and I show up what I believe is not as myself but as people think I should show up,
Uh-huh.
I'm like, who am I? How am I supposed to, how am I supposed to help anybody if I can't do this be yourself thing, you're myself, and
Yeah.
really recognize that there's this journey. There is they need there, it, our vulnerability and being seen is the breadcrumbs, and is the steps, is the way forward for people to discover that for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
To and the more that we, I was going to say protect our humanity, but it's like conceal our humanity through protection for through perfection, in a sense that um, I was I was being labeled, or I got a lot of people would say to me that, I don't want to say I'm not human, but they would just like, oh, you're just like, a rare bird, or you're this. Nobody's like, this, and you're they kind of, in some cases, put me on this scale of something that nobody else could reach. And
Mm-hmm.
so I tried to live up to that standard while I'm like falling apart underneath it, just crumbling on the inside. So it's like, okay, I can't let them see that because this is what they see. This is what they want to see. And it's like, until I let them know that there were chinks in the armor, there was all there wasn't armor in some places, or there was
Yeah.
all these other things, then I was able to be seen and connect with people on a level that felt authentic to me, and it didn't require all this work. I mean, because it required a lot of work to fit someone's expectation of you. you
Absolutely.
know
Yes. Yes, it is. That requires a lot of energy. I have wasted so much energy doing that, trying
Right.
to fit in, trying to meet other people's expectations and doing what I should do or what I think they
Right.
think I should do. You know, I
Right.
have I'm just not doing that anymore. That's the freedom of being able to be seen now for
Right.
me. And when I listed all of those labels for myself, mother, wife, daughter,
Right.
sister, voice coach, singer, all of those Labels, those are labels I live. Those are roles I
Right.
love. And so I
Right.
don't mind, actually, I want to be seen in each of those roles as each of those labels
Right.
when that matters, when that context
Right.
is relevant.
Right. And it's like a lot of my conversation around labels, because some people, will, look at labels as good or bad. The ones
Hmm.
that you like or the ones that you don't like, and all that other kind of stuff. And for me, they're not good or bad. They just are, and
Hmm.
I am my labels, and I'm not my labels.
Right,
At the same time,
right.
and so the more that I can give people access to William and see William, the more the more I can show up in those other roles or not show up in those other labels. And
Yeah,
and it is really being okay with that, to go back to that Toastmasters label that you shared before, that there was a way that I was showing up that was inauthentic to me becoming the speaker, the leader that I wanted to be
yeah,
because of that label or my understanding of that label. Let's just say that.
right.
So I think it's a wonderful organization, and I've met some incredible people
Yes,
like yourself that
yes,
I've been connected to because of that. However, because I held so tightly to I wanted to be a good Toastmasters, it was the word that came up was destroying, but it was kind of intruding on a number of other places and how I was being seen. And it was like, crap, it's like,
yeah.
so how, so what, I'm paying for this. I'm giving up all these hours for this, type of thing. So yeah, it's like, do you think I think I think I know the answer, but I just will ask you: do you think we can actually control how we are seen, or is there a point that we can try to, but it's kind of that maybe like that perfection kind of concept? It's really not ever get there, but we can try that.
I have a couple of different answers,
Okay.
which may or may not gel together.
Okay.
First of all, I belong to the collective group of people who think that we can't control other people's reactions to us.
Okay.
That's up to them, ultimately, how they react. But on the other hand, so to follow that line of thinking, there's not a lot of things we can do to control how they see us.
Right. Okay.
But I think it does kind of contradict a little bit. When I coach my clients to use their voice to make a bigger impact, I encourage them to first set an intention, kind of like you did at the beginning of this conversation with your U cards.
Mhm.
Set the intention of how you want to come across.
Okay.
And if you do that, that's half the battle of getting there. People are more
Gotcha.
likely to interpret you as confident, professional, warm, friendly, knowledgeable. If you first set that intention, this is how I want them to experience me through this conversation.
Got it. I,
Yeah,
No, and I get it, but how they interpret that or how they receive that or how they see that is
still
still up to them.
ultimately
Right.
up to them. Yeah. So
Right.
we can influence it, but we
Right.
can't control it, I think is
Got
my
it.
final answer.
Yeah, no, hey, and you didn't need to call a friend or anything. No,
No.
but no, but no, I think I think it's right. But sometimes, I have spent most of my time not setting intentions for how I'm going to be seen, but really trying to control how
Uh-huh.
I'm seen, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a totally different thing. And then the then beat myself up because I failed at controlling people, right? It's like this
Yeah.
mastermind, type of thing, this mentality. But really, what does it feel like to really be seen?
It feels at first a little scary, but
Right,
ultimately it feels free.
right,
It feels free. Um, I had a coach that you know, and she had a conversation with me in a coaching call, a group coaching call early on in my coaching work with her. I also write about this in the book, but she um, was asking me more about what I do for a living, and there's a backstory I'm not going to get into now, but I was saying, well, in my business, I help people sound confident when they speak. And she said, I don't think so. You can't do that. And I just had this reaction like, what does she mean I can't do? Of course I can do that. That's what I do. And she said,
right.
you can't teach people to sound confident because I've never heard you sound confident when you speak,
Hmm,
which, for some people would have made them turn and run.
right.
Uh, but there was something about her that I knew, even though I felt totally ripped apart in that moment, that she was going to help me figure out how to put the pieces back together in a way that I was
Hmm,
stronger.
got it.
So what I say about that experience is she saw me, she saw the real me, and she
Hmm,
knew that I didn't feel confident yet. And
hmm, got it.
I agree with her that a person cannot teach somebody to do something else if they don't first understand it for themselves.
Right,
So your word about worthy, I am worthy, that's something I worked on for a long time. And I was always looking to get that validated by people outside of me.
right. No, I totally get that. I
But
totally
it's
get
it's
that.
inside. So we have to figure out how to get to that knowledge that we are worthy, we are valuable of our own right, just because we were created as human beings. And
Right,
that's a lot of work I've been doing lately. And it shows up, I think, in how I'm seen, because I feel, you asked me, how does it feel to be truly seen? It now it's liberating
right,
because I I know I'm being seen as a valuable person, not because I know Joe or Susie thinks that way, but because I know I think that way, and I'm
right.
choosing to show up this way. And so it doesn't really matter if they mentally take note. Oh, look at Helen! I see her; she is valuable. It
Right.
doesn't even matter anymore. All that matters is that I see myself that way.
Right. It's like for me, and I appreciate that, and I totally get that. Is that it feels to me like I am doing my job. It's like my only job is to show up, right? Is to
Yeah,
be myself, right? And it's like, yes, I was myself, and so they saw, it's like that reassuring thing that, okay, yeah, I was myself, and they saw it, check. Right,
yep,
and
yep.
that's what I'm looking for. And it's interesting that you say the thing about what other people say about you and what you say about yourself. That is the main reason why within my U cards that I have an I am card, what I am saying about myself, or what I say as my understanding of the divine. The I
Mhm.
am is my partnership with the divine. And so, what I am saying about myself and what other people, you are, saying about me. And so, what someone else is saying about me. And sometimes we, well, I'll say myself, I will weight what other people say about me more than what I am saying about me. And the more that I can not just accept what you are. My you are was I am full, you are full of grace, right? So it's like, okay, I can accept that on a level. And the fact that what I am worthy. And so I connected those two, that what I am saying about myself causes me to accept or acknowledge what other people are saying about me, not weighing what they say more or not, but it is in tandem with. And through my journaling or discovery of that, I am able to, you know, really check in what I'm really feeling about, or understanding about who I'm, how I am showing up. Because there are some days that if I pulled that, I am worthy card, it's like, yeah, no, I don't think we're there today. And and when I do that, it's because I am looking at what I didn't do, how I'm feeling, all the other things that really don't matter and have nothing to do with my worthiness, but I attach to my worthiness. And so that's, in some cases, that's why I'm not seen, because I am connected to things that have nothing to do with me.
Mm.
And so, if because of that connection, I cannot be seen, I don't see myself, so nobody else can see me.
Yeah, I get that. That's powerful. Yeah.
So it's like so yeah, there's that freeing and that liberation to just show up. We think that is, I'll just say this. I thought doing the internal work was the hard work. The harder work is what I have been doing is, trying to live up to other people's expectation, right?
Yeah.
That's a bigger, heavier lift, right?
Yes.
And
Yes, it is.
and so it's like, look, all I have to do is look at myself, and look, I recognize and acknowledge there's some areas that I don't like or don't appreciate and all that other kind of stuff, but there's an ease to that than all the other stuff, because as we know, some people's expectations of us shift, shift around. It is something, you think this is the goal line, and then the goal line is moved, and then it's
Moved.
like, okay, right,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it's like, I'm out, you know.
It's
So
exhausting. It's exhausting.
so yeah, it is really something. I want to. I guess what's coming up for me right now is the show part.
Hmm.
The performing part of, I guess, of our lives, and how it has helped us as performers, and it has hindered us. Because I love how you said, because I really relate it to how all those performing skills that we've acquired has helped us to hide. you
Hmm.
know it's like, because we can decide if I'm going to show up or if I'm not, right?
That's right.
And how I'm going, right? Because I know where people will be looking, and so I'll know where to be, right?
That's right.
So how can we, I guess, recognize those skills, or in some cases use those skills? Because yesterday my conversation was the word open, right?
Hmm.
So it was labeled, well, I titled the show "Open and Closed." And it's like, there want to be open to things or possibilities, but you're closed at the same time because you want to protect things. You want to, guard your heart. You want to kind of guard, you feel, have that level of protection, but at the same time be open for something. And so for me, it's that seeing. How can we be seen and unseen, right? how can we really embrace that level of being ourselves and and be unseen and be okay in our unseeing periods of our lives.
Well, when those skills come in handy are times like um, sometimes first thing in the morning, I need to perform at an energy level that I don't yet feel.
Right. Got it.
So it's helpful to have those skills to be able to kind of just jump in there and say, "Hey, I'm here.
Right. Right.
Um,
Well, even when I'm not, right.
hey, I'm really not here. I'm really ready to go back to bed, but
Right.
look what I can do."
Right. Right.
So um,
Right.
they do come in handy, especially sometimes when I'm nervous, because I still get nervous speaking in front of crowds or even at the beginning of a conversation. Even today, when I first joined you, I felt a little bit of butterflies. They're pretty much gone now. But what I think we need to look out for, William, excuse me, is that
Both is fine. Great.
is that it we can start to detect when we're more on the performance mode side when we recognize how much energy it is taking.
Got it.
And I think in those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm speaking loudly, I'm speaking in performance mode, I'm caring about more about what you think of me than just being present in this moment, that sometimes I'll catch myself and go, whoa, I am putting out way much more energy. I'm working too
Right.
hard. So in those moments, I have to tell myself it's okay if I'm not seen as I think they want to see me. It's
Right.
okay to be not seen in the way that I was hoping to be seen, but at the same time still be seen for just being me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I think sometimes our people see our labels, I guess, easier than us. And I think that's why my first book was Finding You Beyond What Protects You.
mm,
I find protection behind many of my labels, right? I my dad label or my husband label or my entrepreneurial label or something. It kind of there's a justification of things that I say or things that I don't say or things that I do that William doesn't get blamed for, right?
right. Well, and
You
also
know,
it gives us courage to speak up in
right.
that role of dad or mom. I have more oomph when I'm speaking up because of something that matters to one of my children. And
Right.
so I don't have to worry about being me. It gives me power in that role. Um,
Right.
and now I'm not sure if that was related to what you just said or not. I just was
No,
thinking
no,
about that. It
absolutely.
gives us power.
Right. It gives us power. However, I also believe it takes power away from us.
Hmm.
So this is how I understand that is there is sometimes that there was this sternness in my parent label where I would be so much into that and what that meant that my kids stopped talking to me or didn't communicate with me on a level that we were interacting because they knew what dad was going to say. They
Mm,
knew what we knew how I would say it, all that kind of stuff. So there wasn't an interaction with William, or anything, or me. So I couldn't have any compassion or empathy and all those other things that show up with me because the dad was, what did you do? Why did you do? The kind of
yeah.
what I would say the parole officer or something, or
Yeah.
something to kind of do that. And I was showing up that way because I felt that I wanted to protect them and I wanted to do all these other things. And what I what I got for myself is when my kids just needed me to love them or listen to them, not as dad, but just as another human being trying to figure this life out. Um, it you know, it felt like I didn't have power to do that. I didn't have access to do that because I was all my power of communication with them was through the dad label.
Oh, wow.
And so I think I totally believe that sometimes we stand up in that power in that label, but we kind of give it away at our the cost of ourselves. If we are able to really be ourselves, to stand up as Helen or William, no matter what label shows up or doesn't show up, then we can live in the bigness of our life. Then
Mm.
we can be in that moment. And I think that's what I get from you in in your coaching and what you're standing for people. It's not just having the perfect words or the perfect sound and the perfect resonance in your voice. It's just really standing up as themselves.
Yes.
The more giving voice to themselves.
Yes.
Um, and, um, and I think now you are more of that. You can just it's like what was the I'm dating myself, the hair clubs for men, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just the president, I have one
I'm a
too, right?
customer.
Type of I'm a customer, right? So it's one of those things that the more that we coach ourselves or really embody what we are called to speak on, it's first, it's something that we needed in ourselves, or that our ourselves are calling from us. And I think that's the one thing that I get loud and clear. I see that, right?
Yeah.
I see that way beyond the hair, way beyond anything else. I see, you know, not just a strong voice, but a freer of voices to in the orchestra that you help to create.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. My name has a special meaning that is related to what I believe why I show up to do life.
Hmm.
Helen means light, and Moses means to draw out, like baby Moses was
Hmm.
drawn out of the water.
Right.
So I feel like what you said, I'm
Wow.
a freer of voices, but I'm here to draw people out through their voice, to draw their light
Hmm.
out into the world so it can
Wow.
be seen.
Right. Wow. It's I say the most important label is our name, right? Because that's where it everything is. I created Bill, right? But the more that I embrace and sit in William, the more I can be everything that I'm called to do.
Yeah.
And I just really appreciate and I get the Helen Moses. So it's like you kind of own that, and you and you
Yeah.
and you live that, and it's sometimes we think that our parents were so creative and or something like that, but there it is tied to us in a level that if we do that inquiry, we will see that we weren't just named a certain way for no reason, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's purpose. One of my cards, one of the U cards that I went back and forth on was I am purpose. And too often I felt that part of society have been asking us to find our purpose, to go out and discover something. But I think the more that we embrace that I am purpose, we are purpose, then
Mhm.
let's live that. If I show
Yeah.
up as purpose, game over, right?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
awesome.
it's
Yeah,
like then it's things that, and so you don't have to look for it anywhere. It is you are it, and I think in some cases it starts with our name. So, wow,
yeah,
no, thanks for sharing that.
yeah. You bet. Thanks for having me.
We could talk about this for for hours, but I'm sure there's other things that you can see that you could do today, I guess.
We could. This could go in a
Right,
lot of different directions. It sure could. But
right,
I think this has been a great conversation.
right. And so, is there any last thing, or is any one particular thing that has showed up for you?
Yeah, I think just embracing, like, being seen as Helen, no matter if I'm in a parenting mode or in a coaching mode or in a friend mode.
Hmm.
Just showing up as Helen is it. And that's what I want to help
Hmm.
people do. I want to help people be seen as William, or be seen as Mary, or be seen as Jeff. I want them to
Okay.
be seen. And there's a lot of, without us going further into this topic, I'll just say I have seen recently that there is a lot of work to be done so that more people can be seen for who they are despite the color of their skin.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. I got it, and I appreciate you bringing that to that. And and sometimes I I think the cry, the anger, the rage, the frustration is the acknowledgement of not being seen on a level that matters.
Yeah,
And so yeah, so I definitely appreciate that, and I see you, my friend. I see
I
you.
see you too, William.
So, well, thank you very much. I'm going to put you in the back in the green room for a
All
moment. We
right.
can say our goodbyes from there.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Wow, I really appreciate that. There's as many of our conversations, they can go in a lot of different directions, and they can, go on for forever. And really, just one word will allow us to do that. The I would really love to see in the comments, however, when you watch this show, is what does seen mean for you? How do you feel that you're being seen and not being seen? And the more that you're able to take that on and really realize that you are purpose. Your life um, has worth, and as Dr. Seuss reminds us all, that there's no one youer than you. So the world wants you, the world needs you, and the world is waiting for you. So go be you. Have a great rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow.